with you when all the dogs needed help. Lawyers in that commissary ain't gon' pay itself. Well, that when we recorded in the bathroom. Well, that I take attendance like a classroom.
Welcome to the Where Are You podcast. Dan Wilson sitting alongside Addison Hunsaker and Graham Foley on this Friday, March 23rd, 2018. This is episode 5, is it?
I believe so.
It's 5.
Episode 5 of the Where Are You podcast. Little tidbit about 5. I realize what a legendary number that is in Philadelphia sports. Donovan McNabb,
Pat Burrell,
and Amir Johnson.
I was like, where are you going with this?
Anyway, with Temple Spring football upon us.
Just around the corner?
Just around the spring game is just around the corner, but they've already started spring practices.
Sure.
Addison and I have a very specific story that could not go untold.
Historical moment.
Basically a historical moment in our lifetime. But you also have a few Temple football stories, and I have a few build-ups as well, just kind of the culture of going to Temple football games over the past couple of years. And our story isn't even from our time as Temple students, so I'll open the door up to you first. We'll kind of discuss that for a little bit, and then but the majority of the show is going to be dedicated to our story.
It's a great
from our
story.
senior year of high school.
It's a great story. I think I've been around Temple football a lot, working for the team last year. I was on the sidelines for a pretty unremarkable season, but it was very fun.
It got better as it ended. They finished better than they started.
Kind of. That last UCF game was not the best.
Was not
football
good, but
game.
UCF went undefeated.
Exactly. It was understandable. But I think my best story comes in their greatest season, I believe, which is 2015. Even though they didn't win the conference championship that year, they won the next year. I still think the 2015 season was obviously more remarkable, more exciting. They beat Penn State early in the season. I was still kind of a Penn State fan at the time, so I was a little disappointed. But I liked Temple. And that Notre Dame game I had circled all year long. Originally, the game was supposed to be noon. I had this internship with CBS Philly that was going on Saturdays in October from 9 to 12. So my thought was, okay, it ends at 12. I'll take the subway down. I could just go to the game by myself, and I'll get there by 12:30. The game will barely start. I'll get a seat in the upper deck, and it'll be $15. And then Temple decided to be really good that year, and it was absolutely insane. So the build-up to that game, I'm sure you guys remember, was just absolutely ridiculous. And for prospective students, it was a lot of fun to see. And that day, October 31st, I left the internship and I went right to Temple where my sister was attending. And while I was there, I just wanted to hang out with her and I wanted to try to get a ticket to that game. I also sent in my application to Temple that day, of course, on the deadline, because I always do things at the last minute. So I sent it in, yeah.
Due date means the due date.
Exactly. That's what I did it. So, and while I was there, we looked up ticket prices, and everything on StubHub was like $250 minimum for the upper level. And I was just in disbelief because all year long, there were tickets early in the season for like, $20, $25. And if I just got on it then, but I did not. And meanwhile, so I'm here freaking out about how this is the biggest game in Temple football history and how I really, really wanted to go. And I didn't have a ticket. But my sister, a musical theater major, who I don't think can name more than 3 Eagles players, had a ticket to this game and, was excited. I'm going to use a quote from her. I got there and she said, this is exciting for us because there's going to be straight boys there. Because in their major, there are no straight boys. But at this game, they can talk to straight boys. Anyway, so her and her roommates, literally 5 of them, and they've all become, good friends of mine now. Like, I know them very well. But at the time, I'd not really met them. And they were doing the most stereotypical things, like, just painting their nails, curling their hair. And the one turned to me and goes, so what's so important about this game anyway? And I just, went on about, they're undefeated. This could be, the first undefeated season in Temple history. And they can, make a big bowl game. And if they beat Notre Dame on national TV, they're in a big spotlight, blah, blah, all this stuff. And she's like, oh, okay. And, you have a ticket, and I don't. So anyway, didn't get a ticket.
College Game Day was here that day.
College Game Day was here.
College Game Day came to our city.
It was absolutely incredible. And that the exposure of that was the coolest thing. And I couldn't go to game day because from 9 to 12 was my internship. I remember watching the build-up to it and Kevin the Gandhi reporting live on campus saying, I could have never imagined this with my school. And I was thinking, this is the coolest moment.
My dad was at game day.
Really?
He had a sign that said, if I had a snowball, I'd throw it at Rudy.
I
Cherry.
I love the one that said that, Temple waitlisted Rudy and, the gang goes to college game. It was great stuff. Such a great day. I couldn't be a part of any of it. And then so I drove home at 6 o'clock, the most disappointed person in the world, driving back as people were going trick-or-treating, going down to the game. And then I found out my sister got there at 8 o'clock. And there was such a huge line to get in the stadium that they ended up breaking a gate down and everyone just rushed in. So the last probably few thousand Temple students did not use their tickets. And if I had gone with my sister, I thought about going down trying to scalp.
You would have
the ticket.
gotten in.
I would have gotten in, and I didn't get to go. I've had bad experiences, as talked about before on the Where Were You podcast, with scalping tickets. So I wasn't about to try to do that.
Tough luck.
So I went home. I didn't want. My worst fear was going down there, not getting a ticket, and then having to leave while the game was going on, because that would have been horrible. So didn't get in. Could have gotten in. Very disappointed.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That was a bummer.
The story, I went up our freshman year. I believe it was last September, week 3 or 4.
Mhm.
Temple played at Penn State. Of course, they'd beaten Penn State the year before, the year of the Notre Dame game. That
Right.
was Labor Day weekend. I think it was actually coming back. I can't remember where I was, but I want to say it was in Tampa.
It's ironic.
Really?
Yeah.
The
Where Were You
Where Were You
podcast. I
podcast.
can't remember
Where was
where.
I?
I want to say it was in Tampa.
I was driving to Boston for a Phillies Red Sox game that weekend.
That's
It was in
pretty
February.
cool.
That was fun.
That's
For
like
Temple Penn State?
During Temple Penn State, it was a Saturday.
I
I was
was
going
working at Panera Bread.
up.
So while
That sounds exciting. However,
while it sounds very intriguing, I was flying back from Tampa that day, and I remember seeing the second half of the game, but I was exhausted. But I did keep myself awake for Temple to beat Penn State that day. Then I went up the following year, and Temple, the game. I don't remember the exact score of the game, but I remember it was probably not as close as the score suggested because Temple had a late score or something.
Wasn't 38-20? Wasn't 34-28 or something like that?
it was actually a one touchdown.
It was.
I'm not talking
really-
about
it
when
was-
Temple won.
Oh, we're talking about Temple.
I'm talking about when Temple lost.
Yeah, when
last
Temple
year.
lost,
Yeah,
it was a
it was-
one
it
touchdown
wasn't-
game. Because
But didn't they have a late score or something, and Penn State dominated the field position? The
oh
most of the
yeah,
game?
exactly.
Okay.
I mean,
the first half, yeah, it wasn't close.
not to mention if it wasn't for a muff punt, Temple wouldn't have had a big touchdown that they barely got in.
Yeah, so
It was
that game, when you look at the box score, makes it look.
But they
closer than
they
it
did
was.
have the ball with a chance to tie the game at the end. They just didn't.
Yeah, they had to go 90 yards in
Exactly,
30
with
seconds
no
or something, with no
timeouts.
timeouts. Yeah. So I remember I still have a video on my phone of the little Temple section we had in the upper deck
So
of
much
Beaver
fun.
Stadium, going nuts when Philip Walker dived for that touchdown. He was
Ugh,
going towards us.
That was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen live. It was just being a part of
Well,
that.
going to,
corner.
I'd never been. I'd been on Penn State's campus once before that, and it was
Mhm.
for a high school basketball championship.
Really,
Yeah.
I've been to a whiteout before against Ohio State as a Penn State fan. Though it was so cool to be a part of a
The
huge corner,
opposing,
but the opposing part. So you feel like you're in this huge community, but it's also this tiny little corner.
and that was the day that they honored Joe Paterno.
It was.
And that was a very kind of
a lot of people outside the stadium.
Yeah,
too,
there was a lot of
protesting.
protests.
And Temple made headlines with the Cherry Crusade holding up a banner that said, they
I
turned
was
their
a few
backs.
rows in front. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was a
and
few rows.
That
in
was
front
all
of
over E ESPN.
So that was a very big, controversial news-filled day. Otherwise, I always thought it was a little weird that I think that game was on the Big Ten Network.
yeah, it was.
That they decided to honor. If they didn't know something was. This is kind of just a little bit of a side note because I
Mhm.
heard that they were honoring Paterno before the game, but they decided to honor him a game against Temple
Right.
on the Big Ten Network at noon.
Right.
That wasn't the Michigan or the Ohio State game
Well,
on
how-
national TV.
it
They did
was
that.
it was the anniversary of his first win as a.
Is that how they sold it, or
Well, I mean,
do
it
you
was
believe
the
they would?
date.
Do you believe they would have done that if there wasn't some controversy there?
I would never put it across Penn State to make a bigger deal about Joe Paterno than they should. So I think they would have done it if it was Ohio State or Michigan. I just think that it was the date.
that
of
was convenient.
it worked out for them.
So anyway, that was a pretty cool story. But the real story we wanted to get to today.
Hold on. I mean, just from my perspective, coming from Temple, I was also at the Penn State game. We went to the American Athletic Conference.
Oh, that's right. I
Championship.
forgot about
Yeah.
that. At Navy, yeah.
Yeah, last year when
That
our
was
freshman
another
year
fun
when they
game.
won, that was really cool.
That's a
game.
really unique
They blew
campus,
them out.
Yeah.
That,
Blew 'em
that
out.
game was so. I remember being so nervous about it because we got there. We're in the opposing stadium. We're in this big corner. It was a lot of Temple people, but it was a huge game. And Navy was such a powerhouse that year, and we got killed by Army with the triple option. Most people didn't give us a chance. I remember driving down thinking, I think they can make this a game, and people thought that was a hot take.
Mhm.
And they dominated Navy, and it was
Yeah.
so much fun doing the
And then-
the fight song and
And
everything.
then this year I was able to fly down to the bowl game
Mm.
to film on the sidelines, which was really cool.
The Bad Boy Mowers
Gasparilla Bowl at Tropicana Field, wearing a backwards 2008 Philadelphia Phillies World Series hat.
It's a good start for the Owls. So that was obviously a very cool experience. And the AAC, one of the few conferences that hosts their conference championship at the
At the
higher of the two seats.
right, and Temple was close. It was like a tiebreaker that got Navy the game. But if that was at Temple. I mean, the buzz didn't seem to be around the game, but it would have been the biggest game in their history just for what it meant. And I don't think people got that, but it would have been a crazy game. For
Yeah,
us
I thought that's
especially if Western Michigan didn't have the year they had, then that could have been
Could've
a
been-
Cotton Bowl.
yeah. My personal opinion as far as like to go to, because I remember they played in the Military Bowl in the same stadium a
Right.
few weeks later. I'm always with there's 40 billion bowl games now,
Right.
and yeah, I get it. It's cool for colleges to win a bowl game. I understand it's money for the school. It's a cool thing. Temple got in a bowl game this year. I'm of the personal belief that winning the conference is way cooler
Definitely.
to go see than
Winning the bowl game.
go to win the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl or,
This game was the Navy
or
game
the
was so much
Military
more
Bowl. I thought that was the biggest, and of course, Matt Rule left before the bowl
Right.
game, and that kind of may have affected the fact that they
Mhm.
didn't. They looked.
It was just so
flat coming out.
satisfying seeing them pour the Gatorade in Matt Rule and that he
But
had
I
a
thought that
little
was
bit.
so much better because, like, your conference, you know exactly what you have to do. You have to be one of the top two schools on either side of the conference. Go to the game.
Right.
It's not this arbitrary selection thing.
Absolutely.
That's just kind of a money draw. But anyway, so our main story was from the 2015 season, what
Mhm.
you coined as the best football season in Temple's history, even though they lost in the conference
Mhm.
championship. And they needed the game against UConn to go to the conference championship. It was Thanksgiving weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was a senior in high school. We all were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was currently going to C2 Education in Ardmore. It is a standardized test prep and also college application prep place that I had been using. And the location manager at the time, I'm not sure if she's still there even, Nina, knew I was a sports fan, had tickets to the Temple football game that Saturday, couldn't use them for whatever reason, and offered me the tickets. Now, she sent me this email on, I think, or texted me or whatever on Black Friday. So this is the day before the game.
Mhm.
I was that morning, that Thursday, did the Eagles play the Lions that year? They played
Yeah, that was
terribly.
when they got destroyed.
That was
by
when
the
they got
Lions.
destroyed, and the
Yeah.
highlight of that game
There's no highlights of that game.
was who was it who did the halftime? Who's the
Oh.
Big Sean was the highlight of that
Oh
game,
yeah. Well, also Aretha Franklin did the national anthem,
and it took 20 minutes.
and I think I took a nap during it and woke up
And woke up and it was still going.
The first verse. Yeah.
So that was almost that and Fergie are right up there.
Mhm.
Anyway, so they play terribly. So every year on Thanksgiving, my family for years we played in this big father-son football game. It's called the Amherst Bowl. It's kind of faded since for our age group, but it was this huge deal. So we stayed there. We stayed at home
Mhm.
to watch the Eagles-Lions game. But every year we go up to my mom's side of the family. She's originally from North Jersey, so we went up there. So I'm there on Friday, get this email. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go to this game now. And my parents were meeting one of my mom's friends or one of their family friends on Saturday night. I wasn't really looking forward to going to it that much,
Mhm.
but we were planning on coming back either late Saturday night, early Sunday. And I say, I'm being offered these tickets for tomorrow. Do you mind if I go? And they're like, well, I don't know how you get back. And I could drive at this point, but there was only one car.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I can go back. I'll take a train. There's a train station right near her house into New York. I'll take a Bolt bus back to 30th Street.
So taking a train to New York City, and from New York City taking a bus to Philadelphia
Yes. Which sounds a little hectic.
to
but it's really
go
not
to
that-
the Temple UConn game. Continue.
Yes, I know. And it's going to sound way worse when you hear the rest of the story.
Oh yeah.
So I'm on the bus.
The bus.
I'm on a coach bus, all right? And this bus has bathrooms on it. And so we're around, I'll say like Edison, Trenton, New Jersey, somewhere in there, like
Mhm.
approaching halfway. And the plan, I had texted a number of different friends from my high school. None of them wanted to go. So I texted the Philadelphia Sports Broadcasting group chat,
Mhm.
which consists of a lot of friends that Academy and Addison went to. So Addison responded saying he could go. Our friend Anthony DeBundo responded saying he could go. And our friend Josh Neighbors, who actually lives in Virginia but was staying with his grandma in Media,
Mhm.
said he could go.
Mhm.
So the three of us are supposed to go, but the tickets need to be picked up in Ardmore.
Mhm.
So I text the address to Anthony. Addison would be in the car with him. They'd go get the tickets. They'd pick me up at 30th Street. We'd go. We'd meet Josh Neighbors there. All would work out perfectly. Far from that, all right?
Mhm.
I got a text that Anthony DeBundo has rear-ended someone on the Schuylkill Expressway, was it, or 95?
It was 95.
Okay.
He was-
Let's turn it over to Addison.
He
real
Let's
was-
turn it over to
fast.
Addison,
He
who was
was-
in the car.
I was sitting, in the front seat, and the drive was going great. There were no issues. The plan. I believe we went to Chickies before, and then we were driving back to because Anthony's dad has an apartment right behind Chickies
In South
Pete's.
Philly, yeah.
Right behind Chickies and Pete's, like literally right near the stadium complex. So we went to Chickies, and we were driving back to Ardmore and pick up the tickets. And then we were gonna go get Dan at 30th Street and go to the game. All was gonna be fine. And then Anthony, not paying attention to the road, doesn't realize there's traffic. And as
And
he's
this is the Waze app enthusiast who updates that freaking app.
yeah,
Didn't know there was traffic.
yeah.
Continue.
Waze is overrated.
He was
Try to
trying
find
to
that.
merge over to the right, so because the exit was coming up to get to Ardmore, and he doesn't stop in front of him and rear ends a car. Now keep in mind, it wasn't like he was going fast; he was like slowing down because like we were like the traffic wasn't moving fast, but he didn't like realize that it stopped. So he rear ends a car. We got to pull over, and he's trying to like pinpoint the location for like the police to report it to the police. And then he calls his dad to come and inspect the car. And, normally in like a small little fender bender like that, like the car is still able to function. Not Anthony's. Because Anthony's car was smaller than the car he rear-ended. So like his car, the front of his car like literally went underneath the bumper of the car that he rear-ended. So his car, he could not drive it. So we had to wait for a tow truck. This took like 2 hours. So the Temple game would start at 7, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah,
it
we're
was a
leaving.
night game.
We left at like around 4:30 to go pick up these tickets and come back. We did not get picked up by the tow truck and Anthony's dad until like 6:15, 6:30. So while all that's going on,
So I get a call, right? It says, I rear-ended someone, car's undrivable, we can't get the tickets. I'm like, how do I even respond to that? Okay. And I'm like, well, we can't go now if we don't get them.
Mhm.
Except Josh Neighbors saves the day, right? He texts his friend, Emily Edelman, who also went to the camp,
His friend.
who picks him up. And is she do you know where she lives?
I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
it was out of her way to
It
do
was
this.
well out of her way.
It was out of her way.
Well
to do
out of her
this.
way.
She's a good friend.
She's a good friend. Picks him up in Media. Drives to Ardmore, a place that an area neither of them are familiar with.
Mm.
I have to call the manager of C2, Nina, saying originally it was going to be these two kids, Anthony and Addison, are coming in. Now it's going to be Josh Neighbors and this girl, Emily. Like, just give it to him. Like, I'll explain later. Like, I was going to see her the next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny story. You'll laugh about it. So he gets them. Except she has to drive back home. Can't just drive him to the link. And he was supposed to get picked up, I believe, by you guys also.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so. Yeah.
So they can obviously no longer pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to now get on the train system he's not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the phone with him, directing him. All right.
While you're on the boat bus.
While I'm on the boat bus. I'm like, get on at the Ardmore train station. He gets on a train and then realizes, he's like, oh, I don't even know which way I'm going. I'm like, oh my. I said, what's the next stop? He says Wynwood, which I happen to know was the correct direction. I'm like, that was just luck. Because if he got the one going the wrong way, he would have had to get off and wait another hour to go the other way.
Yeah.
Okay. This is on a weekend. So he gets on the right one. I say, get off at Suburban Station. It's the one after 30th Street. I'm like literally counting out the stops for him. Like, I'm going to get off at 30th Street, get on a train myself to Suburban Station. You'll meet me from like a Dunkin' Donuts or something. You'll see me, and then we'll take the subway. So at that point, we meet at Suburban Station, and I can't believe that we've actually pulled all this off. They're getting a ride from Anthony's dad to go to this game. We get on the subway. We finally meet them there. It's the amount of
effort that went in.
The amount of effort to go to
Temple, UConn.
was definitely not worth it.
And I think,
even though it was a good game, and then
you four were probably 25% of the attendance for that game.
Because it was
Yeah,
bad
probably.
weather out. The weather was terrible.
It
weather was bad. It was cold,
Students were home for the.
And UConn was a bad team.
UConn was a bad team.
and we missed more than half the game as it was because Josh Neighbors thought it was a good idea to drink a lot of soda.
Ah,
Yeah.
soda.
The soda.
Oh yeah, soda
Yeah.
can
because
can mess
he
with
because he wasn't 21.
Right. Right.
And
So
he just
Just
was-
drink a lot of soda.
drank a lot of soda. So he's in the bathroom for most of the game. It was just,
You
and
know-
then because they couldn't even drive, neighbors and Josh Neighbors and Addison didn't have a ride all the way back home. We had to take the train all the way back to Wynwood,
Mm.
walk back to my house. Come to find out that my parents had actually decided to come home that night anyway.
Mm.
Could have given us a ride.
Oh man.
We walked home in the cold anyway.
Oh my gosh.
This is the best part though. So we get the train. We were gonna all stay at Dan's house overnight. Well, then you ended up driving Josh.
We
back to
so we all
his-
get in the car at like 2 a.m,
Mhm.
drive Josh back to his house. We come back. They stay at my. You have to get up early. the
'cause I had
next day.
work the next day at 10 a.m.
Wow.
I had work from 10 to 2 the next day
in Collegeville.
in
and
Collegeville.
we're in
So
Wynwood.
Anthony's mom had to pick us up the next morning
Oof.
and drive me home, and then took Anthony home as well. But as we're walking back to Dan's house, he takes us down the wrong street
So there's
to his own house.
so there's a
So we had to walk all the way back down the street,
'Cause-
go up another block, and walk all the way down the next one.
quick explanation. There's a cul-de-sac, right? Not that I thought there is a shortcut walking through a park back to my house, and there's a cul-de-sac right before it. And in the dark, it's not the easiest thing to decipher the two streets.
Mm.
Okay. Granted, that's not a good excuse.
No. So during all of this, during the train to the Bolt bus, to the Chickies and Pete's during the accident, to the Josh Neighbors meeting up with a friend, driving to the place he's never been, getting the tickets, almost going the wrong way in the train, you guys finally meeting at the train, the throwing up during the game because of too much soda. During all of that, I was also at the game. I drove there with my friend. We arrived on time. We attended the game. We rooted for Temple, and I went home. Where were you? That's where I was.
Our trip was like a 12-hour endeavor between the time it started and ended.
Our endeavor was way
And we were
better
only
than the
there
game.
for like a quarter and a half.
Our endeavor was way better than the game itself.
Yeah.
Just like getting there and going back, and the amount of different modes of transportation I took that day.
Mm.
And I happen to document the whole thing. I think I have the whole thing saved on Snapchat,
Mm,
and
what a day.
that was just
So-
a wild day. I'll never forget where I was. I don't remember exactly what day in November it was, but I could forget whatever the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend was. That's what.
So this episode really just goes to show you how much effort we put in to go see our teams. Those are free tickets.
Temple UConn.
Temple
It was
versus
free.
UConn in football, a blowout game. You do what you've got to do to go see your teams.
That's exactly right.
Mm.
We're out of time. This has been episode 5 of the Where Are You podcast for Graham Foley, Addison Hunsaker, and Dan Wilson. Thanks so much. We will talk to you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.